All right, guys, let's start. Um, so welcome to this Tech Talk. My name is Nikolaj, and with me today I have Nguyen, and we're going to present from vision to reality how we developed the Danish Corona Passport app in 2 months. So just before we start, this talk is from a app perspective, and we are both app developers. And this project was a really, really big project, and with a lot of people involved. So you will probably, and you could probably hear a lot of other perspective on this project. So just have that in mind. But it's great to have all of you here. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the questions tab. I'm going to try to have it open. So if you have any questions to something we're talking about currently, I'm going to try to answer the questions while I talk. Um, but let's begin. So just a quick introduction. My name is Nikolaj Lykkegaard, and I've been a part of Netcompany since 2018. Um, I'm currently working as a senior consultant here in the company, and I'm currently stationed in Ho Chi Minh City. I am just home in Denmark for vacation here. Um, I am solely a mobile developer, and on the Corona Passport, I've been leading the app team. I'm also on a daily basis leading our mobile center of excellence here in the company, where we kind of exchange ideas and talk a little bit about how we can do things better. Um, and the projects I've been working on, I've tried to pick out the best ones, but Aula is a school communication system. We have Smittestop, which is Danish test and track app for Corona, and then a few Corona passport for England and Denmark, and then it's called like Mit Hospital, which is basically a home hospitalization app that we have created for the Copenhagen commune. So, Nguyen, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Nikolai. So, hi all. My name is Nguyen. I've been in Netcompany since 2019, and I'm currently a senior consultant in the company. And I'm in charge of developing mobile application and back-end development of multiple projects. My experience, yeah, I have worked in Aula as with Nikolai and work on ATP, which is a insurance institutes for Denmark, and uh, and I works on Coronapass, and currently I'm now back at ATP.
Cool. Thank you. So let's begin. So the agenda for today is I'm going to make a quick introduction to Netcompany, and I promise I'm going to make it short. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we developed the Corona Passport. It's going to be from a technical perspective, so I'm going to explain a little bit how all of this started in Netcompany with building Corona apps, and then I'm going to talk how we choose a technology stack in Netcompany, and what technology we actually use, and then some of the design decisions that were made on this app. And then Nguyen is going to talk about how we develop with security in mind, and how we collaborate between the countries and projects, because we had multiple Corona apps built in Netcompany. Um, and then I am going to finish off with talking about some of the roadblocks that you will see in projects like this. And then we're going to talk about D-Day, which is when you go live to a whole country. And we're going to end off with the Q&A. But please just start asking questions, and I'll see if we can pick them up while we talk. So a little bit about Netcompany. Uh, Netcompany is the fastest growing, I would say, most successful IT company in the Nordics, and we are aiming to become the Nordic leader. Currently, we have around 3,500 people, and just to put it in perspective, when I started here in 2018, I was probably around number 1,500. So it's becoming a very big company very quickly. We operate out of 6 countries: England, Netherlands, Denmark, uh, Norway, Ho Chi Minh, which is Vietnam, and then Poland. Um, and as you can see here, we have multiple offices in many of the countries. Yeah. Um, so what defines Netcompany? We do a lot of different projects in all types of sectors: public sector, private sectors. But what defines us is that we develop really fast. Um, I thought when I came to Netcompany the first time that I was just gonna sit for the first 3 weeks and try to learn stuff, but I was literally working on creating notifications for an app after 4 hours of being in Netcompany. So I just started out doing stuff and just developed really, really fast. And this is just only due to us having really, really skilled colleagues that will help us in any situation. Um, Besides that, we have a lot of fun. Um, we really have a lot of great clubs, social activities during the week. Myself, I play basketball, both in Denmark and in Ho Chi Minh City when I'm there. And otherwise, we just enjoy our Friday bars every Friday, probably, where we just enjoy and talk about the week with our colleagues. So I think there's a club for everybody in the company, and it's really, really fun to just go and hang with your colleagues and play sports and get to know them on a social level. So yeah, that's a little bit about the company. I thought that was pretty quick. I hope you think that as well. So let's get to it. Um, so how we developed the Danish Corona Pass app in 2 months. So let's start it. So small facts about this is that if you don't know what the Corona Pass is, it's basically an app that will show your vaccine test and immunity status. It will show visually on the screen, but it will also show a QR code that can be scanned by controllers in the airport or at concerts, for example. Um, it can be used as official documentation in Denmark. Yeah, and it's a part of the European program. It was launched on May 28th in a collaboration between Sundhedsdatastyrelsen, Statens Serum Institut, Digitaliseringsstyrelsen, Trifork, and Netcompany. And development time was actually around 7 weeks, but I'll just give and take 1 week and say 2 months. Um, but anybody who has done any mobile project or any project related, it is 2 months. It's a very, very hard deadline. And there's no doubt that everybody that was involved in this project, I believe we were 45 people on the company side, was working their asses off to pull this off. And it was great to see the achievement afterwards, letting it go live. But yeah, so how does all of this start? I think from the beginning of the Corona pandemic, we had a vision in the company that we wanted to use technology to battle COVID. And the first app we did was a test and trace app, um, where we used Google Apple technology to pinpoint which people you have been close to. Um, and that was kind of what sparked the interest for how we could kind of help the society open up. So we kind of created a broader vision to open Europe, and we came up with some concepts that later turned into be very accurate to what the different countries around Europe was. And as you can see, we have now 4 Corona Pass apps out, and it's in England, in Scotland, Denmark, and in Norway. So it's really great to see how the work that we've done over the last 1.5 years has kind of developed into um, multiple things in many countries. So that's really great. But the first thing you start with when you develop an app is probably to choose your framework, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is what technology stacks do we actually use in Netcompany? And I've tried to take 6 frameworks, which I would believe account for around 90% of the apps we currently have in production. So Xamarin Forms, Xamarin Native, React Native, and Flutter, which is the new kid on the block, and then Android and iOS native environments. And I would say, I mean, it's not that we don't use other frameworks, but you also have to be a little bit consistent. But if a new framework comes up, we will evaluate it, and we'll take it in and see if we can find a project for it. But it really, really depends on the project. As I will also discuss in the next slides, that there's no one framework for everything, and all frameworks have pros and cons. I'm not going to dive specific today. I'm not going to dive specific into the different frameworks because that doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to talk more broadly about why you would choose native and why you would choose cross-platform, and I'm briefly going to talk about why Xamarin was the choice for us. Um, but let's start. So, what framework to choose for a given project? Um, the things I consider when I have to choose a framework is time and budget, future of the framework, app requirements, performance, skill set of developers, and code reuse. Um, I think for most of our projects, time and budget is the most important thing to think about. And as you can imagine, when I just told you that our time span was 2 months, then time is probably the one I need to highlight here. Um, but when I talk about time and budget, it's mostly a definition between native and cross-platform development. Um, if you have the time and you have the budget for it, um, native is a very good solution. It will enable you to visualize, have really, really good visuals and opportunity for full customization of your code. It has better advanced animation and graphics, and I think the most important that native gives you um, is the performance. But if you really want to have something time to market that is quickly, then you need to have the cross-platform. Um, because development time is lower and costs are also lower. And that is because basically you only need to maintain one code base, where in native you would have two in order to support both Android and iOS. Just to clarify, I know there are other native stacks, but most of our customers rely on both only Android and iOS. That's why I'm only talking about these. Um, but yes, and one thing to note about cross-platform is also that if you really want to have a complex code or complex animation and graphics, then most cross-platform frameworks are not your choice. Just a little reminder. Um, then next thing I would probably take into consideration is the future of the framework. Is your framework ready to go into production mode? I think everybody who's a little bit into mobile development in these years have talked about Flutter, and we actually have a few apps coming out in the next few months about that's going to run on Flutter, which are some of the first production apps we've developed. And when we started, we were a bit unsure it was production ready, but as we can see now, and with Flutter 2.0, it has been really, really good, and we trust the framework fully that we can develop and maintain these apps for a long time. So, but it's definitely something we think about. I don't to just put it in perspective to the Corona Pass. I don't think it was that big of a decision maker because we already knew that it had a very little time span. So for us, it was more that we needed something quickly. So next thing we think about is app requirements and performance. What does your app actually require? Does it need access to native resources? Spoiler is that most app does, but with native you get full access to all hardware and native resources. But when you do choose a cross-platform framework, it is often that you need to use third-party options. There, I mean, there are a lot of risks in using third-party options, and you need to be really selective in which options you choose. Um, Nonetheless, you need to think about the security risks there is in using other people's code. Um, but I would say most cross-platform frameworks have a very reliable list of basic third-party options that you can use without big risks, and they are updated on a very almost monthly. So it's not a big risk for us to use something that we've been using for years. And then you need to think about if you need libraries compatible with the platform. So in some projects, you need technology that is brand new. For example, when we created the test and trace app, we had to use technology that was not even developed yet. So we needed to go either native or talk to some of the other frameworks and ask if they were going to support it. in order to make the choice. So in some cases, in very rare cases, you really need to talk to the developers of other frameworks in order for them to in order for us to kind of figure out if we can use it. And then of course performance is key to all apps and the UX experience for our users. So, and I would say that native is always the baseline for performance, and cross-platform in most cases will be worse. Um, the one deal breaker here is probably that Flutter has its own UI, and that will give you close to what I would call native performance. But otherwise, the older frameworks such as Xamarin Forms and React Native, they're still lagging a little bit behind. But I'm sure that in the coming years, when they have new updates coming with Maui and React Native restructuring the architecture of the framework, then they will also be at a level where we will see close to native performance. So I think the gap between native and cross-platform will be smaller in the next coming years. And then if your apps are doing any heavy lifting, and again, a spoiler, our app does not do a lot of heavy lifting, but then you would really consider doing native work since you would need every bit of performance. And especially when you have iOS is a pretty closed framework to work on, but if you work on Android, then you know that there are so many different vendors and phones and versions of the system that you really need to be sure what you're doing. Um, so yeah, but let's jump to I think the most important things and why we chose Xamarin. As I said before, we had code from other projects because we have been building and visualizing this concept for over a year. So, and we had a lot of C# code laying around that could be used for similar things. So for us, code reuse was a way to save time in a very hectic project. It was already tested, and that means we needed to use very little resource to put it in. And I'm not lying when I say that we actually had a, a app running that is very close and looked pretty cool after almost a week. So that is pretty insane that we could reuse all of this code. Of course, there's a lot of changes going on through the project, but just to have a good baseline is very important. And then in my opinion, the most important thing is that you need to pick the framework from who your developers are. So if you look around the room and all your developers are front-end developers, then please pick a framework that is probably React Native or Flutter because it has the mindset of a front-end framework. But in Netcompany, we have so many strong C# developers. They might not be front-end developers and they might not be app developers, but they know their C# code. And so it was very easy for us to go and pick some great developers that had a very slow or very fast learning curve when it came to using Xamarin. So those are those are kind of the ideas of why we chose Xamarin. And I know there, if you have been working Xamarin, there's a lot of people that would say that you can find better, but um, when you have 2 months, then everything becomes about time and time to market. So that's why. So this is how I would choose a framework. There's probably many other good cases to be made, and I know this was not like a very technical part of the talk, but it's but I hope Nguyen will put some more technical perspective on it. I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the design phase now, and then I'm gonna show you a demo of the app after, so you are aware of what we're talking about when we go into the more technical details. So design decisions. When you create an app like this, privacy by design is must be your fundamental stone for this project. And this is a shout out to the developers and the UX designers that did this. They did an amazing job, and there are so much political involvement and so many people have an interest in this app. So it's very hard to get everybody on board with an idea. But what we came up with was a solution where the first thing you see on the left side is what you see when you start the app for the first time. It is an anonymous QR code where you only show that you are um, eligible to go into a place. It is only used in Denmark, and it doesn't show your name, and the QR code will not show anything besides your validity status and if it's when it's valid too. If you click on the show name and birthday, which is, I'm not sure I can point, but it's in the header, then you will, on the next picture, you will be able to see your name and your birthday. The QR code will also change, and now whenever somebody scans it, it will actually have the name and the birthday in it. And then on the right side, we have the European passport, which was created in collaboration with other European states. And it's basically used for traveling outside of Denmark. It has a more advanced QR code with a lot of data in it, such as what type of test or vaccines you took, how long you have immunity status for, if you already had COVID, and a lot of things that you need to travel outside. So this is just to kind of to show you the idea and how we kind of try to shield the user for showing too much information without their consent. And also we have a page that I'm not showing here, which is called My Page, and it's basically just to give the information to the user about their own statuses. But it looks really similar to what I'm showing here with on the third picture from the left. But yeah. Just to answer your question, Niklas, being able to maintain a collection of code, it's some customers are, some customers are not. It is something that we, if we know we're going to develop multiple parts of the project, we put that in the contract. But it's something you have to discuss individually with all your customers. So yeah. All right. So next up is basically how to avoid faltering. As you can imagine, this can basically be used as documentation in Denmark without showing any other form of documentation. And there was a lot of when we first put out the app, there was a lot of people that actually sold this code because you could take screenshots of it. So we tried to avoid faltering by putting in visual elements. So what we came up with was that we used the gyroscope in the code, in the in the apps, in order to kind of have some flashy animations, and I'll show you on the demo in a bit. So we have a watermark in the top here, and we have a clock which shows the time. So if you go and take a picture of it, it will not go up and down. And then in the actual green bar here, we have like a white strip that will also flash. And the icon you see out here on the left side of the image is basically a check mark animation that will keep checking if you turn the phone. Besides that, in the code, we had the expiration time of codes, which is around 1 hour, I think. So your phone will need to refresh the codes each hour. And it will basically, all the codes have an expiry date in it, so they won't work if you scan them after 1 hour. Then we also limit screenshots. On Android, it's possible for us to limit screenshots completely. But on iOS, we basically have to check if people took a screenshot, and then we have to give them a warning. And second time, we give them a timeout in the app in order for them not to. But yes, I think that is all I had to say for this time. I will just try to show you a video, and I just need to warn you that in the end, I'm scanning something, and it might be a little loud cling, so just be aware of this. But I hope you can see it. This is just me logging in. And as you see, I'm trying to flash here to just show you the different animations we have. And you can see the QR code changing here when I click the button. And then we switch to the international passport, where we first show a warning to the user. And then you have all your vaccine status, test status, and immunity status, if that's what you have. Most people will only have the vaccine status now, but yeah, just all the information that we show. doses, type of vaccine, who created it. To answer your question, Daniel, the timeout is 5 minutes. So this is what you would see when you scan from another device as a controller. So yeah, I'm just gonna go back to the presentation here. Nguyen, will you present the more technical part of this?
Thank you, Nikolaj. So now is the technical part, the really technical part of the talk. So developing with security in mind, let's talk what the app really is first. This entire app is actually just a QR code generator and decoder. So information, the encrypted data we get from either the API or the QR code from other device via scanning, we first pipe it through our verification process. After all the verification is completed, then we will decode the data so it can be shown as a QR code if it is your certificate, or show the necessary data for you to verify to verify other certificate like Nikolaj just did in the demo by scanning. So for the data flow, all the data in the app are medical data, so they are very sensitive. They can be used to trace back to your national ID system if your country use one. In this case, this is a potential data breach if we not handle it correctly. So we decided to not handle this at all. We will let it for the government to decide how to handle it. And all the app will do is just a visualizer and verifying. Here is an overview of the data flow in the app for the entire system instead. So your vaccination data, your test data, and other came from the testing center, from the vaccination center. The information will be sent to the Danish Health Authority for storage and catalog. Those data are then fetched and processed to become the QR code for the app to display. Yeah, and let's talk about QR code for a bit. In the beginning, we decided to we have the choice of Aztec code or QR code. We know that there's a lot of other 2D code type in the world, but each of them fit a different industry. So the decision is very simple. We want to show a code in a limited rectangular space like a phone screen, or maybe less. So for because of that limitation, there's only 4 types of code that are available to us. We have QR code, Aztec code, data matrix, and maxi code that match our expectation. And from there is just a deduction on how easily we can implement this. And so Aztec code and QR code is the choice there. Yeah, let's talk more about these 2 types of code. For the Aztec code, it is quite space efficient. It doesn't require any quiet zone, which help in scanning. It has continuous turnable error correction, which is very desirable here. However, it has a hard limit of about 3,000 alphabetic character, and it has limited support in general. Support here is the third party that we can use to generate the QR code without any issue. Yeah. On the other hand, QR code has a bigger payload limit of almost 4,296 alphabetic character without error correction. Error correction, it had better software support in general, and it is less prone to issue since it is used basically everywhere now. However, it needs a quiet zone for mobile device with poor camera to read easily. The quiet zone here is the white space around the code, as you can see in the picture. And because of that, is not really space efficient. Just a fun story here. We actually goes back and forth between these two codes like for a week without any result, trying to find the best solution. And thankfully, the EU decided that their official certificate, the EU Digital COVID Certificate, to use QR code. And because of that, we also decide to use the QR code for the Danish only token, since the infrastructure we just have to create once. Yeah. So let's talk more about the EU Digital COVID Certificate. So first, let's talk about what is this certificate. It is a common COVID certificate for the EU citizen to travel between EU country. This certificate covers three types of COVID-19 certificate: a vaccination certificate, a test certificate, and a recovery certificate. And they all hold a minimum set of information necessary to confirm and verify your COVID-19 status. And it's actually more than enough. This is more than enough for a human to read all of this data and verify it. So because of that, all the data shown in the app are from this certificate, nothing else. Meaning the data Nikolaj showed in the example, in my page, in the scanning, all came from this certificate, with the exception is the DK code with only the name and birthday. So the information stored in the certificate is really limited. They only include like generic information like name, date of birth, certificate issuer, usually a country, and a unique identifier of the certificate. For a vaccination certificate, it has a vaccination type, manufacturer, number of dose you receive, the date of the vaccination. For test certificate, it is type of test, date, time, result of test, place and result. For recovery, is the date of the test and the validity of the validity of the certificate. For more information, please visit the European Commission site for EU Digital COVID Certificate. All of the information on this certificate is up there. Okay, now let's talk more about the flow. Here is the flow. Here is an overview of all the steps it takes to encode your health data to the QR code. Yeah. So let's go through this step by step. First, the certificate provides a JSON schema, which is a template for us to fill in your health data to form a JSON document. This JSON document is then converted to a CBOR binary document. CBOR here means concise binary object representation. It's basically a JSON in binary form, and it has a small message size, which is desirable for this particular case. Here is a rough representation of what it looks like. On the top, you will see on the top is a JSON object, and the bottom is the equivalent CBOR data for that object. Yeah. Next, the CBOR binary document we just converted will be signed by a public and private key pair to form a COSI signed document. COSI here means CBOR object signing and encryption. This CBOR document, after being signed, the public key will be exposed to the public via the official public key store of the EU on the EU channel. And just for people who don't really understand the signing part of this, is basically mean the original document will be wrapped inside another CBOR object with added signature and metadata for decryption. After this COSI signed document will be compressed using zlib for a smaller size. Then this compressed binary will be encoded to ASCII string using base 45 encoding. Base 45 encoding here is a more efficient way to encode arbitrary byte data for display in 2D code in general. And this ASCII string is what we use to generate the QR code. Yeah. For decode and verify your token, all we have to do is going back step by step until we have the original JSON document. Because this token is sensitive, we have some protection measure in place to ensure the token data is valid. The token, this token must be verified with a provided public key on receive before we decode into other data. So, and this is not really a requirement of the official certificate. However, in this particular project, we decided that a valid token must have a deadline. So this requirement is pretty concrete in here. The token must have a deadline. Third is the token payload must match our supported version. We will not accept anything outside of the official documentation for this for the certificate. No experimental, no preview version, nothing. Only the official version that we support. On the other hand, we have some on-device protection, of course, for user to actively protect their token, like a 4-digit PIN code with biometric if the user want to. We have real-time visual verification. In this case, the gyro animated watermark Nikolaj showed you in the demo. And all the data corruption happen in the app is considered invalid data, and then a storage wipe procedure is activated, and all data have to be refetched from the start. And yeah, so at the moment we develop the solution, we expected that we have expected to receive more current password app from other EU countries. So we take into consideration that our code will be reused somewhat, especially the decode the decode base. So what did we put into this portable version of our course? Well, HTTP client and handling, basic HTTP client and handling, REST API handling, just in case. Of course, authentication is excluded because we don't know what the other project want to authenticate uh, the app with. Somewhat, maybe they try SSH or something, but we don't care. We just need all the basics. And because we developed our solution in Xamarin, we know that Xamarin Form navigation is uh, pretty complex, especially with iOS, especially with iOS 14 and 15. So we decided the navigation base is worth to put into the shared project. And of course, we have DCC, we have the token, the code base, with a small feature for language translation if they decide to use that. And I am pretty, and this core has been implemented for in the Corona Passport app in Scotland and Norway. So I think it is 3 on 4 Corona Pass app in the company that use our base, right, Nikolaj? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And yeah, um, another thing about collaboration, since one of the main usage of the app is for people to scan and manage entry to places. So it is designed for user to scan each other's code. So we expect it to have some situation where it need a high throughput of scan, like an airport for control station, stadium for entry, supermarket, concert, and other. And most of the time, the biggest delays between scan is actually the image processing step. The verification and decoding step run pretty fast because we already tested, so it's run pretty fast. So we have integration with professional scanning device to make this step much faster for this specific situation. We have integrated with some Honeywell scanner device, Newland scanner, Zebra scanner, or you may know them as a data wedge scanner, and some CyberLab scanner. Yeah, and of course, working in this kind of project will have some roadblock and other stuff. And I will give it back to you, Nikolaj, to talk more about this.
All right. Thank you, Nguyen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the roadblocks that you can encounter in such a project and how we solve them. So I think the first thing we're going to talk about is political involvement, because um, political involvement in such a project. If you live in Denmark, you know how much this has been talked about in the news, and I've been sitting at dinner watching the news, and I just knew that the project was going to change from day to day. So it's quite crazy to be in a project like this where everything that is decided in the news will basically be your reality the next day. Um, which is it's also cool, but it can put a lot of strain on your team when you tell them that the code you just made that is not going to be used. I've seen many angry faces. Um, and and then time constraint, of course. When you have such a tight deadline, all issues you will encounter will be critical for you. Simple bugs can become blockers, and if you have, as I said, we are using a third-party framework, and we are using a lot of third-party stuff for this. And if there's a bug in one of those frameworks, you just have to accept that they won't be fixed. I have literally been talking to the developers of these frameworks because we had to fix some bugs. So they made special releases for us, just for us to be able to fix the bugs. So you have to go to drastic measures in order for it to work, and you have to be really pragmatic in order to overcome all of these things. Um, so these are like, I think the most important thing in these projects is that you just have to do. And the thing is also that roadblock, it's not only that you have bugs and stuff, it's also that we were basically developing an app while they were also designing it and designing all the other features for this app. So you were basically 5 or 6 teams in different companies and different places, working on the same thing. And at some point, you have to put all these things together, and that's really a puzzle that needs to go up into a higher thing. But it can be done, as you can see. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the team, especially on the app, but also in the company in general. But I can just say that the team that we were in, I think we were at the most 13 developers on one, and that will cause a massive traffic jam in end of each sprint. So we had actually to make a plan for when each of the pull requests came in, so we didn't have a lot of merge conflicts at the end of each sprint. I remember the first week we were literally like we were sitting down, and we just had like I think 15 pull requests that were coming in, and every time there was a new pull request, it had touched the same code as the other person, so they had to solve the merge conflicts all over again, and it was a nightmare. So we basically created a team of 4 developers that after they have delivered their own code, they basically just spend their days uh, helping and cleaning up the rest of the pull requests, so we could quickly get them in. And that kind of gave us a new structure in order for things to go in really quickly. Um, all right. So these are some of the roadblocks, and you can of course just ask questions. There might be other things you're thinking about, um, but let's try. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this. Is the last slide, I promise that. And if you don't know, the right side is basically 3 ministers and a guy uh, from one of the organizations that was involved in this, and they are presenting the Corona Pass on national TV. And on the left side, it's basically us. It looks like it's a rocket launch, but this is how you feel when your project goes live to 6 million people, and everybody has an opinion on it. And this is kind of your baby that has been sitting around, and it's always a very hectic time where everybody has a comment on your project. And I think now I have been delivering a lot of critical projects in the company, and what if one thing I will tell you not to do is to read the comments on the app on the day it comes out, because that will just get you in a very bad mood. Um, but besides that, the launch was amazing. Of course, there's always hiccups, and you cannot develop a project um, where there's not hiccups and child diseases that needs to be taken care of. But overall, it was a great success, and it has evolved into becoming an amazing app. Um, and I was actually in Vietnam when we did develop it, so I didn't get to use it myself. But when I came home to Denmark last month, I actually get to use it for the first time, and it's always great to see your app in real life, and use it with your own data and stuff. That's really great. That's all we have, guys. Um, I think we're gonna go to okay. First, of course, we have some references. I mean, we've been talking a lot of technical stuff about the European passports, and if you really want to check out the code, you can actually download samples and run the code yourself. And you can also there are also like data that you can use to scan um, different codes. We also have some links to CBOR and the COSI, which is what we use for signing and encryption, and then how we base 45 data encode it. So it's just for you to kind of get more into the technical parts if you want to do that. So let's go to some questions. I know I already answered some of them, but I'm going to start from end. Philip, you asked, can you talk about size of development team, its organization, and the methodology you use to develop the app in order to meet the very tight deadline? So um, overall, 45 people. I think we are 3 teams, development teams. One operations team that was setting up all the infrastructure on our part and making sure that everything was running smoothly. Then we had our own backend team in the company that was kind of just uh, making sure that we got the right data and in the right format, and everything that came from the other vendor was kind of formatted just exactly to what we wanted. And then we had the app team, which was around, as I said, 13 people. We run, I think the structure that we usually use in their company is similar to Scrum, and we run in 2-week sprints for this. So really fast sprints, and a lot of code need to be produced in those sprints. So, but it works. And when you have a team of 12 people, you really need to have a good structure, and you really need to have good communication. And our team was based in 4 different countries in I think 3 different time zones. So it was very hectic, and to lead such a team, you really have to be up all the time to answer questions and make sure that nobody's stuck, because you can't have people stuck on this project. You can't just sit for an hour and wait for other people to solve it. You just have to come up with a solution. Um, yes. Um, Niklas asking, once COVID is over for good, do you believe the apps and backend service you develop could potentially serve a different use in the future? It's hard to say. I think again, in a political situation where people don't like to be to have these, I think it will probably close down as soon as possible. But I mean, we can always use the code and some of the things we have developed into other things. We in Netcompany, we often have what I also explained before, something called Center of Excellence, where we have accelerators for each of our frameworks that we use. And basically we grab some of the cool parts that we've done in projects and we reuse them in other projects so that they don't have to do the same things. And it helps us a lot in our development processes. So if you don't have that in your company, I think it's something that you can recommend, because it's a great way to start up a project when you already have something. Um, and Daniel, you're asking financial related questions. To be honest, I haven't. We don't have anything to do with the financial structure of this project, so I probably wouldn't be able to answer it. This is something for somebody higher up in the company to discuss that. So yeah. Um, so will you answer Lars's question, or should I, Nguyen?
Yeah, let me. Yeah, for Lars' first question about the backend, he asked, is the backend only a bridge toward the national medical system that pull data from and deliver them to the app? Yes, the backend for our system is just a pass-through for the data. We will uh, all the authentication and other stuff will be handled via the Danish national authentication system name ID, and all the data is then passed through to the other integration service. So we don't really handle any data at all.
No. So just to the system where everything is put in is like basically a national registry of all these different services for vaccines and for tests, and all of this is put into one place where you can basically take it out from a common API service, and that is what Trifork used to integrate to, and then they send the data to us. And basically, the only job of our backend is just to send stuff in the right format, because it wasn't coming in the right format from Trifork. So it's basically just a bridge between the two. Um,
Yeah. Question for the scanning library. Um, how to say this? I actually don't remember which library we use, but it's everything we use is open source. So um, yeah, it's basically on GitHub. I think it's the most start project on GitHub for scanning QR code, scanning and
yeah,
generating QR code. Okay.
it is sync
Yeah,
last. So
yeah, it's using.
exactly.
Yeah. Um,
But also, I just want to mention that our code is actually published on GitHub as of last month, I think. So you're actually able to go, if you search a Corona Pass, you're able to go and see the code for yourself. So cool.
Yeah.
And I am not. I'll see if I can post this slideshow. Otherwise, the presentation will also be sent to you, so you can revisit it, and and yeah, so you
Yeah.
will be able to see whatever we have shown you today.
Yeah.
Um, from Nguyen, you ask, do you think this app can be used for outside of Europe, for example, going to Japan, etc., and the QR code will still be accepted? So just briefly talking about the European collaboration is basically that we just decided on a format and we exchange public keys with all the countries that are involved in this. So if Japan and other countries around the world would want to be in this collaboration, they would basically have to adhere to the same format as us, and they would have to grab the public keys from the public repository, and then it would happen. But as far as I understand, it's not common. But as far as I understand, Vietnam is actually accepting the European passport, so we would be able to use the Danish passport to come to Vietnam. But I will test that next month when I come back. So yeah, I don't see any more questions. Can that be right? And yes, Lars, it's open sourced. No, it's not open source. You can't really develop for it, but you can see the code. So um, it is I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think we
La,
imagine I think we
la,
imagined that we would have 4 million people coming on and doing requests in one day. So this is what the system can something like
I,
that stimulate. I think.
I think all of the requests for certificate are passed through, like all of them, like every single request. We doesn't cache anything.
No.
We don't have any storage for that. So everything the app request we just forward it to the national registry.
Hmm. All right. So Daniel asking me why I decided to. It's just a great opportunity that the company gave me to in order to come to Vietnam and stay with my some of the colleagues that I've been working with over the years, and I decided that it was really great, and it's absolutely amazing to be in Vietnam and working with such talented colleagues as Nguyen. He's yeah, so it's been a great experience, and I really enjoy being there. And I mean, this is an opportunity you can get in Netcompany not only in Vietnam, but also in other places that if you want to, you are able to come and visit the other offices and stay there for a period of time to not only learn and teach, but also just to get to know your colleagues and the projects that you're working on, because you will be working on projects with multiple nationalities in any given project you are in Netcompany. Yeah, I don't think I've been on a project where we haven't had at least 2 or 3 nationalities working on it. So it's really, really an international company, and will only be more. So and it's just great that we can travel and see each other, and all of our courses as well will be international from now on. So you will be able to see them when you go to different seminars. Um, and Nicholas asks, "What's the cross mobile platform of the future? Which do you believe in?" I am a Flutter man. After trying Flutter, I think that it's a great framework. The way they have thought of the UI, where it doesn't really go down and talk to the native parts, that is just absolutely amazing. And it's so fast and it's so easy for developers to learn. I believe that when I started the first project, nobody had ever written a single Dart code line of code before, and in 2 weeks, people were really developing quality code. So to see that is really great. Um, but let's see. I'm not sure there is again one giving framework for the future. I think each framework has its own um, uh, pros and cons, and but currently, I would say that Flutter is the hot shot, and we uh, we try to use that a lot at least. So yeah, we have a new bigger project coming out in Flutter soon, so follow it. Um, what's 2 months including testing? How many releases did you do during the development process? Okay, so what's the 2 months including testing? How many releases did you do during the development process before public release? So yes, we have. Okay, so I haven't really talked about the test part, but basically, we had a test team of around 10 people, I think, and they did simultaneous testing after each sprint and in the sprints. So every time something came out, we had a standard process where we just push out a new build and then they test it for us. So it was ongoing testing, iterative testing. Yeah, every day basically. We didn't. I think well, I'm not completely sure, but I think we released internally over 100 apps before we went live. Um, but yeah, that is there's a whole other side of the story. It's just how do you test stuff, and there's a lot of testing, not only for our own platform, but just you have to test all the way through to the other systems as well. And just a cadeau to all the test team that they really did an amazing job on talking together on the different teams and getting everything to work out.
Ngang, I think Nguyen asks how you verify the authenticity of the public key. Is there any possible way for other third party can manipulate the public key? Okay, so to answer this, I might not have mentioned this in the presentation, but we do also refresh the public key, I think, every day. So every day, every 24 hours, you turn on the app, all the public key are then disposed and refetched. So to uh, to manipulate the public key in this case, you have to do two things. You have to somehow insert your malicious key inside the uh, European public key store. Then you can, yeah, when you have the public key in there, then we can fetch it. After that, you have to somehow intercept the, you have to somehow generate a QR code for the same schema. For the same schema, same or the you have to generate a truly valid public, truly valid QR code and get it scanned. And you have to do it like I don't think it's I think it's possible, but it's not really uh, plausible in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, you need to sign it with a private key that you don't really have either, right?
Yeah,
And that is not public or anything. So
yeah. You have to somehow make it up into the public key store of the on the European channel. Yeah,
yeah,
since we dispose it every day, so as most you can just as most you can only do you can like fake it for a day at most, if it's possible, if you can manipulate the device. However, we also anticipate that, so corrupted data is all treated as invalid. So yeah,
yeah.
in theory it should be possible, but at the probability of it, I don't think it is.
Um, I'm just seeing a question outside from Lars. Do you sometimes do open seminars in person here in Ho Chi Minh? Here too, where people from other companies can drop in and meet. I'm not sure we actually do companies since I haven't really seen that, but we do at least have a lot of universities coming in. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a cup of coffee and show you around the office. It's always great to talk to people, and I'll be glad to show you around. Um, um, if okay, so will you do a Flutter talk, Nikolaj, one day? As it's probably not so much related to the COVID passport. I've been interested in your view on it when it comes to performance and etc. Very network intensive apps. Um, yes, hopefully I'll get to do a Flutter talk. It probably has to do with a related project, but we'll see what I can do. Otherwise, I'll talk to someone else in the company about doing it, because I know we have a lot of now very skilled Flutter developers that would love to talk about what they've done, and the I know that some of the apps we are currently having will be very uh, what is it called? Very network intensive. So it's definitely something I will keep in mind and try to do. Um, yeah. And Daniel is also asking, um, this is a more general question. I tried to apply for a student job at Netcompany multiple times and constantly got rejected. They say it's because they only accept university students. I am not sure, Daniel, and I'm sorry.
I
Uh,
think we should forward this to Vilad.
yeah,
I don't take. Are you on, Vilad?
well, I'm not actually sure
Yeah,
what the reason for that is, but I'm sure my colleagues can answer that who are sitting in the chat as well. Um, but
yeah. He will write the answer and we send it to you, Daniel.
yeah. Do you have any other questions, guys? Feel free, please. We are here to answer. I'll try to answer as good as possible. If you don't think it's good enough, then just write it. I'll try to elaborate on my answers here, on our answers. Uh, I
What?
think,
Yeah, Parker just. I think Parker Peter just asked what is the challenge on the testing side while doing this project.
I think for I'm not a tester, but I think basically it's a very fast-paced project, so uh, you need to have. So basically, what we do is basically we have a bunch of test devices. We have focus devices that we test on, and we know that our code needs to work on these devices, and the devices are chosen from the most normal types of phones in the given country. So they had to test all of our code and in all the different versions of the app on all these sort of devices in order to verify that it worked, and that takes tremendous amount of time. So just writing all these test cases, and for Android you also have to consider different versions down to Android 5. So there's a lot of work going on there.
And don't forget the vendor side. We have to do a
Yeah,
lot of debugging with, I think, especially Samsung device,
yeah.
since they do things like really weird with their One UI and Samsung Experience stuff.
And
Yeah,
also, since this was a project that was not only Netcompany that did it, but a lot of other people, and then we needed, let's say we needed to create some test data, then we needed to talk to some other people that need to talk to some other people that need to create it. So it was just a big communication task for them in order to get what we wanted. Um, it is a it's I think they had a hard time just talking with a lot of people, and at the same time creating test cases. And also you can imagine that this was something where from one day to another there could be new requirements, and the EU didn't decide almost until we went live what they actually wanted. So until like the last day, the requirements changed, and they also had to change with it. um, so it's quite hectic. um, but yes, let's see. um, how do you feel when you successfully develop the Corona Passport app? Oof. I remember us sitting at the office in Ho Chi Minh and looking at the same screen, and all of the people behind us was kind of just cheering while the three ministers were talking about this on live television. And I think it's always I think in the situation you're just stressed, and hopefully nothing will go down. But when you look back on it, I think everybody is really really proud of it, and it's really really amazing to see your creation um, go live and become a part of everybody's days. And I mean, I don't think everybody back here really thought about it that way, but I think everybody on the team was very, very proud of it, and is still very proud of it. And they have, yeah, yeah. What do you think, Nguyen? Was it weird to
Yeah,
see your app on television?
uh, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Like, just nervous that there may be some issue that just come up on television. Yeah, I'm quite nervous, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is always nerve-wracking. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's just always nerve-wracking to see your stuff go live, and it's kind of your little baby that is now going into the world, and everybody else has to judge it, and it's always it's always pretty fun. Um,
yeah.
does the final app differ much from initial design? What was the largest changes you made regarding development and testing phase? So I think from the beginning we already knew it's gonna be something related to QR codes. So that whole concept of QR code based stuff was pretty solid. So I don't think I mean, of course, the design itself changed a lot, but the concept of the design didn't change that much. And but yeah,
Oh,
I know in the process there was a lot of talk about using other formats and other ways and NFC chips and all of this different types of technologies to make it to make the user experience better for the user. I think the most of what we've talked about is just the UX perspective because you really uh, you really need to think about the user experience before people want to adopt a certain type of software. And in these type of situation where people only need to show it for a brief amount of time to go into a shop or go through the airport security, you really need something that can be scanned quickly and just it's easy for people to use. So we used and spent a lot of time. This is not us. This is the UX team that needs to be awarded for this. They did a sublime job, just going out and user testing this on a daily basis with user groups in different parts of the country. And we had different tests out in Tivoli, which is like a amusement park we have in Denmark, and in the airport and at the Swedish border. So we had a lot of live tests as well, just to kind of see how it worked in real life before we went live. So we tried to do as much as possible in order for it to be as user friendly as possible. But I don't think the design changed that much. Um, so what are your thoughts on doing unit tests to make sure the code works before creating methods classes for the project? I currently study computer science, and our teacher told us to always test the code before doing any type of functionality. So unit tests are amazing, and they can help you avoid a lot of mistakes. And to be honest, it's not something that a lot of students do before, but it's really something that you learn is really, really important. On a project as the Corona Passport, it was not important because we simply did not have time to do it. But on larger scale projects, as the one I'm sitting on now, I just implemented a whole unit test framework. And I can already see that it helps on the quality of the code. So if you want to write quality code, then unit test is your friend. And it will just help you not make mistakes. And especially when you have larger teams where people will touch on the same code on a daily basis, then it's really, really important that you have tests that will guarantee that nobody makes a crucial mistake that will fail the app. So it is really, really essential, in my opinion. But you need to have the time for it. Um, okay, so if I screenshot a QR code, can I use that screenshot a week later, or the system will refresh and that QR code will not be valid after a period of time? So I should have shown you this, guys. But basically, if you scan a invalid code, you will get like a new pop-up that says it's invalid. So after each of the QR codes have a expiry date. So for the Danish ones, it's 1 hour, and they will need to refresh. So you won't be able to scan it and get a valid code after 1 hour. The international codes are used for traveling. Um, so imagine that you are in the airport for 24 hours and you don't have internet, then you will still need to be able to use your code. So they are only refreshed every, I think it's 72 hours. So, but no, you will not be able to. Um, and I also touched base on that you can't really screenshot stuff on Android at least, and you can on iOS, of course. But um, it's basically if you try to cheat and fake the codes and stuff, it's in Denmark at least it's seen as document forgery, and it's you will be punished by law if you fake it. It when it just came out, it actually happened a few times where people tried to fake it and they got charged with that. So please don't do that. um, and thank you, Lars. That was nice.
Lewis asks, back and wisely, how do you balance and balance the performance of your endpoint with potential delay from the national authority system? So for this, the pass-through request to the national registry is actually, I don't think there is any delay there. We have some hiccup, minor hiccup here and there, but it was resolved really quickly. However, since all the requests are passed through to them, it is their responsible uh, to make sure that they handle this kind of requests. And on how to say this, is the certificates is not generate like automatically when you when you get a charge. It's actually when you make a request to the registry, then they will prepare for you a code. So as I understand, they will have an internal cache for to handle this kind of thing. Yeah.
And for Daniel, I don't know what the punishment is. I'm not into law, but I'm sure you can look that up on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Jun, as you mentioned, the biggest delay is in image processing step. How have you overcome this challenge? Which solution, third party or self-developing useful service? Well, since we use the Zsync library for the for this, we actually does not have any solution to handle this slow scanning issue, because it is depend on this particular third-party library. So it's depend on the as I read into this, it's actually depend on the processing power of your device to be able to decode the QR code. And yeah,
yeah,
and we have, yeah, as I said before, to handle this like professionally for the specific situation where we need a high throughput of scan. We have integrated some handheld computer brand for uh, handheld computer brand for much faster scanning. As I have tested, I think the Zebra device can scan like uh, two to three two to three image per, I think, per second. Yeah.
yeah. So next question is it necessary to have internet connection to use the app? What if I am in somewhere with no internet connection and somebody asks for the QR code? So this is quite an interesting question because the first version we actually did of the app had a different time limits on the QR codes, but it was decided that because people might be cheating with these codes, that it was kind of a balance between security and user experience, and security was chosen in this case. So yes, you will need to have internet connection at least every hour. But in a country in Denmark where you will, it's different from Vietnam, I think. But in Denmark, there is internet everywhere, and you can get internet everywhere. So it's very rare that you will go an hour without having internet. It is a, and if there's no internet connection, there probably won't be anyone checking your Corona passport. So in the end we decided upon security instead of that. But yes, you would need to, but you can still if you're traveling with it, as I said before, you still be able, the international QR codes will be able to to last for 72 hours before they need to be um, um,
Updated.
remade. So you'll be able to travel for multiple days with them without any issues. So yeah, I think that's it. There's no more question coming in. Then I want to say thank you so much for joining. Oh, and it's been a pleasure having this talk, and thank you for all the great questions. It's I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. So
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
guys.
you all for joining. Thank you, guys.